The echoes of the Tigray War continue to reverberate through the Ethiopian highlands, a stark reminder of the conflict's devastating human cost and the fragility of the peace that followed. The war, erupting in November 2020, pitted the Ethiopian federal government under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed against the Tigray People's Liberation Front, the ruling party of the Tigray region. Fueled by long-standing political grievances, ethnic tensions, and a struggle for power, the conflict quickly escalated into a brutal civil war, marked by widespread human rights abuses and a dire humanitarian crisis. The ceasefire agreement signed in November 2022 brought a halt to the large-scale fighting, offering a glimmer of hope for a nation scarred by violence. However, the peace remains tenuous, with underlying tensions simmering beneath the surface. The scars of war run deep, and the path to reconciliation is fraught with obstacles, jeopardizing the long-term stability of Ethiopia and the wider Horn of Africa region. The international community, while relieved by the cessation of hostilities, remains cautiously optimistic, cognizant of the challenges that lie ahead. The conflict's origins can be traced back to the rise of Abiy Ahmed as Prime Minister in 2018. His reform agenda, while lauded internationally, faced resistance from the TPLF, which had dominated Ethiopian politics for decades. The TPLF's refusal to fully embrace Abiy's centralizing reforms, coupled with growing ethnic tensions, created a powder keg that ignited in November 2020 when the TPLF attacked a federal military base in Tigray. The Ethiopian government responded with a military offensive, drawing Eritrea into the conflict on the side of the Ethiopian government. The Tigray War represented a catastrophic failure of diplomacy and a stark illustration of the human cost of political expediency. The conflict resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of people, displaced millions from their homes, and left the region grappling with a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. The war's legacy continues to cast a long shadow over Ethiopia, serving as a cautionary tale of the devastating consequences of unresolved political and ethnic tensions. Eritrea's involvement in the Tigray War marked a turning point in the conflict, escalating the violence and further complicating an already volatile situation. Under the leadership of President Isaias Afwerki, Eritrea, sharing a long and porous border with Tigray, had its own history of animosity with the TPLF, stemming from the Eritrean-Ethiopian War of 1998 to 2000. This historical baggage provided fertile ground for a tactical alliance with Abiy Ahmed against their common adversary. Eritrean troops crossing into Tigray shortly after the conflict's outbreak played a significant role in the Ethiopian government's military campaign. Their presence, however, was far from a stabilizing force. Accusations of widespread human rights abuses, including extrajudicial killings, sexual violence, and looting, quickly surfaced, implicating Eritrean forces in some of the conflict's most egregious atrocities. These allegations, corroborated by human rights groups and international organizations, painted a grim picture of brutality and impunity, further inflaming regional tensions. Eritrea's motives for intervening in Tigray were complex, a blend of strategic calculations and historical grievances. For Afwerki, the conflict presented an opportunity to weaken the TPLF, which he viewed as a threat to Eritrea's security and a destabilizing force in the region. The intervention also allowed Eritrea to settle old scores and potentially exert influence over a weakened Ethiopia. However, the long-term consequences of Eritrea's involvement are far from certain, with the potential to further destabilize the region and exacerbate existing tensions. The alliance between Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki, initially hailed as a historic breakthrough ending decades of hostility between Ethiopia and Eritrea, quickly soured amidst the brutality of the Tigray War. The conflict, rather than cementing their partnership, exposed the fragility of their alliance, built more on shared animosity towards the TPLF than on a foundation of mutual trust and cooperation. The presence of Eritrean troops in Tigray, even after the ceasefire, continues to be a major point of contention, hindering efforts to achieve a lasting peace and raising concerns about Eritrea's long-term intentions in the region. The guns may have fallen silent in Tigray, but the presence of Eritrean troops in the region continues to cast a long shadow over the fragile peace. Despite repeated calls from the international community for their withdrawal, Eritrean forces remain entrenched in Tigray, fueling mistrust and hindering efforts to address the root causes of the conflict. Their continued presence serves as a constant reminder of the war's horrors and a tinderbox for renewed violence. The Eritrean government has offered various justifications for its troops' continued presence in Tigray, ranging from security concerns to the need to protect its border to vague claims of assisting with reconstruction efforts. However, these explanations ring hollow in the face of credible reports of Eritrean troops engaging in human rights abuses, obstructing humanitarian aid deliveries, and hindering the return of displaced civilians. Their presence is widely seen as a deliberate strategy to exert control over Tigray, exploit its resources, and undermine any prospect of reconciliation. The continued presence of Eritrean troops in Tigray has far-reaching implications for regional stability. It exacerbates tensions between Ethiopia and Eritrea, undermining the fragile rapprochement achieved in 2018 and raising the spectre of renewed conflict. Moreover, it fuels instability in the wider Horn of Africa, a region already grappling with multiple armed conflicts, political turmoil, and a devastating humanitarian crisis. The presence of a foreign military force in a neighboring country, particularly one accused of widespread human rights abuses, has the potential to spark a wider regional conflagration. The international community's response to the Eritrean troop presence in Tigray has been marked by a mixture of condemnation and hesitancy. The United States, European Union, and African Union have all called for the withdrawal of Eritrean forces, but these calls have largely gone unheeded. The lack of a robust and unified international response has emboldened Eritrea and undermined efforts to pressure its government into withdrawing its troops. The international community's failure to effectively address the Eritrean troop presence in Tigray underscores the challenges of upholding international law and protecting human rights in a complex and volatile regional context. As the conflict reignites, the world watches with bated breath. The ramifications are far-reaching, affecting not just the immediate region, but also global stability. Economies tremble, alliances are tested, and the human cost continues to rise. This renewed strife could potentially reshape the geopolitical landscape for years to come. What lies ahead remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the stakes have never been higher. In the complex world of international relations, the space between condemnation and action is often vast. Governments may issue strong statements, but translating words into meaningful action can be a challenging process. The stakes are high, and the consequences of missteps can be severe. Understanding this delicate balance is crucial for any informed observer. Now let's turn our attention to the future. What potential paths lie ahead? Various scenarios could unfold, each with its own set of implications. From diplomatic resolutions to escalations in conflict, the range of possibilities is wide. By examining these potential trajectories, we can better prepare for what may come. It's essential to analyze the risk factors involved. Economic instability, political unrest, and social tensions all play significant roles. Identifying these risks helps in understanding the broader picture and in making informed decisions. The interplay of these factors can either exacerbate or mitigate the situation at hand. Finally, the ultimate goal is achieving sustainable peace. This requires a multifaceted approach, addressing not just the symptoms, but the root causes of conflict. Long-term solutions involve cooperation, dialogue, and a commitment to justice and equity. Only through such comprehensive efforts can lasting peace be attained.